Season 6, Episode 1.
Hi, I'm Finn. And I'm Sawyer. And you're listening to Our House, A to Z.
All right, welcome back, everybody.
Our House 2025.
2025.
Oh my gosh.
I know, we're crossing all kinds of thresholds.
We are. We started recording in 2020.
That's crazy.
My gosh,
and
that's
we
crazy.
and everybody, I think it was just a few weeks ago that we crossed our 200th episode.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Which puts us in like
I think this is only 201 because...
Is it? This is 201?
I think so.
Okay.
Because the last one we did was with the kids right before Christmas.
Oh my gosh, that's right. So 201 puts us in the, voluminous category of the Fast and Furious franchise. I think they have about that many. They have about that many sequels. So yeah, I mean, I'd like to compete in that realm. So here we are, 201.
Oh my gosh. Vin Diesel territory.
Yeah. There were a lot of movies. Like, there's another one that just came out.
Is there?
Yeah. And then poor Paul, God rest his soul.
I know, but I loved Fast and Furious when it first came out. Like, the first one, I was like, yes. Yes.
That's great. Oh my
I don't
gosh.
even know
What
why.
about
I don't know.
Because you drove with your seat like tilted way back?
Well, you have to understand, when I was in high school,
Yeah.
the car thing was a big deal. Like, I know teenagers now are like, why even get a license? Like, what's the point when I have mom?
Sure. Yeah.
But like when we were in high school, it was all about like what car you got. Like it was, I mean, the guys all had like the rice burner type cars. Yeah. It was like how fast could they get to 60? Flying, it's terrible to think about now. We drove fast and Fast and Furious.
Yeah, that's so funny. I mean, where I grew up, there were a lot of like pickup trucks and SUVs and stuff. And you had that, like, this is why I always made fun of you when we first met. Because I remember when I would drive
this
the way I drive.
No, this is not a true story.
When I would drive the way I would drive, your line was what?
I'd say, too fast, too furious, I'm too fast for
like
y'all.
If I took a... And I'm like, what the heck is wrong with this girl? But I think that because that was like your world. But for us, like, I mean, it was the same, even though the cars were different. We didn't have a lot of those. But the cool kids weren't driving those. It was like the Asians. They were all driving those cars. And it was like little gangs, and they would go out on Friday nights and race off the line at stoplights on the main drag and stuff. Yeah. But that was pretty much strictly the Asians. Everybody else drove like 4x4s and stuff. But what was interesting was that it was the same thing. Everybody had jobs to like trick out their cars.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like you worked to like add like exhaust or chrome or like fuzzy dice or like whatever.
Seat covers,
rims.
Steering wheel covers.
I got rims for my birthday. For graduation, I got a stereo.
The
CD
stereo
player
systems. We used to get
with
outsourced stereo system.
Off.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And you'd put them into the car. And you used to go to Best Buy and there'd be like a whole wall of like the different ones.
Jay Kimball installed them all for you?
Yes. He also installed automatic start into all of our cars.
Oh my gosh. That's so
but it was
funny.
like, it was a big thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, cars were a big deal. Used to go to Seekonk Speedway.
Oh my
the
gosh.
guys from youth group did all race, and it was a vibe.
Yeah. So anyway.
Now it's like, why cars?
Well, now I know, right? I mean, the sound system in public transit is like perfectly fine. You don't need to buy subwoofers and stuff.
It's just funny.
Well, I think that it's cool that we are seeing this return back to Seekonk Speedway with the ministry here.
Yeah, I like it. It's going to be good.
It's going to be great. So yes, crossing thresholds, moving forward.
Oh my gosh, what was Vin Diesel's name in that movie?
Wasn't it Dom?
Dom what? It starts with a T.
Toretto?
Toretto.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Can the kids watch those?
Probably not.
No?
I can't remember. It's been a while.
I don't know either. Yeah.
Anyway. Speaking of Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yes,
2025 is here and time is flying by.
Yeah,
Can you believe it? Don't you feel old?
I do.
You just turned 40. I'm about to turn 40. Tons of people in our life just turned 40 and are turning 40.
Well,
it's like the year of the 40.
We only hang out with people that are exactly our age for some reason.
That's
like,
not true.
Well, we have this like group of people that are all in our staff turning 40. But
yeah, it's very weird.
I know. It does make me feel old. It makes me feel like, no, we just started the church in our mid-20s. And it's like, no, now we need to hire people in their mid-20s.
I know.
So to you listeners out there, if you know of anybody in their mid-20s who wants to work for like nothing.
Wants to work for
Tell them to make sure they're not called into ministry because they might be.
Somebody just texted me, one of my girlfriends that is kind of getting ready to get engaged, and she was like, how is it possible? Like, in my head, I'm still a teenager. And I was like, honestly, I said I've been married for, I don't even know how long, 16 years?
Sure.
16 years.
We'll go with 16.
Have 4
and a
kids,
half.
almost 40, but in my head, I'm like, no, I'm like in my early 20s. Like, no, doesn't that just is so like crazy?
Well, don't they say everybody like locks in their glory days? And so like for like guys who like their best season was high school because of like, football or sports.
Do you feel like you lock more in at high school, or do you feel like you lock more in college?
I loved both. I don't look back and say like, oh, college was way better or high school was better. But I loved high school. I loved college. I loved whatever the next season was. Like our
early
starting,
20s.
Yeah, early 20s. I loved the worship gig and doing that with you for 5 years. And then, I don't know, I don't really look back and say this was like my prime.
Right.
What about you?
I think probably closer to early 20s. I feel like I finally locked into something like of who I was.
What made it happen when it did?
I don't know. I think it's like some was like confidence.
So what made confidence happen when it did?
I don't know. Probably. I'm sure you played a big part of that.
Because I was like telling you how hot you are every day?
That's all I needed.
Yeah.
No, I had already had that. I didn't feel like I needed that. I didn't feel
Everybody
like I
was
needed
already
that.
telling me how hot I was every day.
High school seemed like a lot of floundering in purpose.
Okay.
Even though I was like always doing ministry, I was on worship team, like all
Yeah.
of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I wanted like more purpose than that. And then like through college, I kind of felt similar. It was like, what am I going to do? It feels like so much pressure is on like what you decide on what you're
Yeah.
going to do for college.
Your major and...
Yeah, and I never felt like really sold out. Like I can't wait to do such and such for the rest of my life.
Now, I thought you were pretty sold out to the law.
I did. I
track.
loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, I also walked away from it without like a tear shed. So it wasn't really like
Right.
I'm walking away from like this dream. Like it wasn't a dream. It was like
Yeah.
what I could do and was good at and enjoyed. And so
I wonder, like,
Yeah.
if there's something like that. Now we're raising kids, and I'm wondering, like, is there something that we do to like catalyze the confidence bloom? Or does it just like everybody gets it in their own time? It's like puberty. It just like hits when it's ready to hit.
yeah.
The confidence, like,
Well, I think I was confident in a lot of places, but I wasn't confident in where I was going.
purpose or whatever.
Necessarily. I know. Yeah. It seems like two different things to me.
Yeah. What? Oh,
Like when you're saying if you're
confidence in
confident or
general,
not, like
yeah.
confidence in general.
yeah.
Like I was never like doubting myself, like, oh, you're just not good enough, or you're not this
Yeah.
enough, or you're not. I never had that.
Yeah.
It was more like the purpose, like of where I was going.
It probably does happen different with women and men.
Yeah,
is my
probably
guess.
so.
Probably guys get that bloom like earlier.
I like that you're calling it a bloom.
It's like they call like early bloomers, late bloomers, like a confidence, like, it's like an algae bloom.
Yeah.
Just like it goes like, I feel like I see it in our boys.
The bloom.
There's like an irrational confidence. I'm not sure where that comes from. Probably you. But
right.
it's like an irresponsible level of confidence that I love. I absolutely love it.
Not just the boys; they all have that.
They do, but I'm wondering, like, do the girls... Because I feel like the insecurity stuff of girls comes, like, older than what our girls are now.
Oh, okay.
And I don't want to speak that over them, but, I mean, I'm just saying I think that when boys start getting cocky, girls start getting conscious.
Interesting. Okay.
Not that boys aren't self-conscious, too. They very much are, but they're compensating for it wildly, recklessly. So... I don't know. It makes me wonder,
Yeah.
what are we as parents supposed to be doing? Not that that's our topic today, but I do want to like play a part in that, you know, but I think it's just different.
Yeah.
I could attribute some of my probably confidence to my mom, like always telling me I was like the bread and butter that held the world together, It was like the bee's knees. Thanks, Mom.
It's been so helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good though.
Yeah, I mean, I think pouring into like your kids, I think you have to see what their giftings are, their interests, all of those, and come alongside those things, encourage those places, and
We'll save it for another day. This is a very interesting conversation that could really develop,
yeah, feels a little bit like deja vu. Did we talk something like this like recently?
I don't know. We probably keep coming back to it. I'm sure we do. I'm sure we
Interesting.
circle around. We need a chart on the wall of
I
our
know.
topics. And for those of you that have stuck with us all these 5 years, thank you, because I'm sure that things have been redundant.
You've heard all
times.
sorts of things.
Yeah, but hopefully they're far enough apart. I mean, they're even from one to the next. It's like a full week. Who can remember what happened last Friday?
And P.S., you and I talk every day. So it's kind of like we don't remember what we talked about. We're
Yeah,
like, no,
that's
I
true.
don't know.
No,
Was that on a
that's true.
podcast? When did we talk about that?
That's true. We should have a whiteboard up with the last 8 weeks of who knows what.
Podcasts.
Yeah. Anyway, we're not just here to talk about Fast and
We're
Furious.
not. I wanted to see how your Christmas was. We haven't been here in so long, it feels like now.
Right.
But maybe 4 weeks.
Right.
How was your Christmas? Was it everything you hoped for? It was white, which
all
was
that
cool.
and more. That
we
was
had a white
really
Christmas.
cool. That was really cool.
Yeah, it was
I
very
love that.
nice.
And we hosted Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas in the new house.
Yeah, and that was great.
So
Very fun.
we made a place for our Christmas tree
Yep.
by demoing a hot tub.
When one first enters the scalding waters of the hot tub.
All
Because
of
why
that.
not?
Because why not? Yeah.
You were done. You were all of a sudden you were done with it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm pretty handy.
Yeah.
I feel like pretty Renaissance when it comes to fixing things
And
and
that's why I call you the Renaissance man.
Do you?
I don't know.
Anyway,
I can
maybe
if
behind
you want
my
me to.
behind my back.
Now that you've referred to yourself as a Renaissance man.
I mean, just because I think of myself that way, I don't know that everybody needs to, but I will say I have no problem watching a couple of YouTubes, taking on a task. And the fact that I couldn't fix the hot tub
Dad says you got savvy.
was stressing. I've heard him say I was borderline genius, so I'm clinging to that.
It was 20 years ago, but I do love that you've clung to that.
I mean, I'm hanging on to it for dear life. So it's my father-in-law, so it's gold in my pocket. But I feel like there's a time when it's like, all right, let's call it. And it was leaking.
Yep.
The heater. We'd already paid somebody to fix it once. I'm like, I'm not doing that again. And so let's call it. And now we have a nice, huge space.
Yep.
For a Christmas tree that's not there anymore. We packed that up.
Going to be great.
Yeah.
We went to North Carolina. We did that, the family trip down to North Carolina to see everybody and have Christmas with your family.
Yeah.
Drove through the night there, drove through the night home.
Which I loved, and I know it's not your favorite thing to do, but I think it was worth it.
Yeah, it was good.
It made the trip feel short, which was good.
drive,
Would you
yeah.
go so far as to say that? How was your Christmas?
I think my Christmas was great.
Good.
It was great.
I'm glad we're finally talking about this.
I feel like the kids are I feel like the kids are at fun ages. They're not like the fun Christmas kids where they're little and they're just so excited and
everybody knows what age they're at because of our last podcast.
Oh, yeah.
So we probably lost a lot of listeners after that one.
Oh my
I
gosh.
think people were falling off.
But they're fun in that they're buying for each other gifts that
That was cool.
are not just stupid gifts. It's something they've actually thought about.
Yeah, had to go online and order,
Yeah.
make a special trip to a store.
Exactly.
I love that.
They're trying to be thoughtful and buying something for a friend
And they're wrapping them when the other's not at home.
Yes.
I
And
know.
so I'm
Very
enjoying
cute.
that part. I think has been really cool. Just trying to take it all in, trying to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Each stage because it's so fast. I feel like we were just buying so many toys and now it was I think this was the first year there were no toys. I don't think we bought,
Right.
aside from nieces or nephews, I don't think we bought a toy.
I know, which
and
makes
that's
me sad
so weird.
I wanted Willa to want toys forever. I think just so
Yeah.
there was always that thing, but she's moved on.
That's it. I know. It's crazy.
Yep. So
Other people got her toys though, and she'll play with them still.
yeah, the critters, the
Little critters.
little critters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. I mean, I get tempted with little critters.
They're
Can
so
I just set up the
cute.
treehouse?
The treehouse,
I
I
just
know.
wanna put
That's
them
why is
around.
it? What is it about that stinking treehouse that adults want it?
I know.
It's even if kids aren't playing with it, adults are I think we need to buy that.
I know even Finn got me a flower Lego set for Christmas, and
Yeah.
it's cute.
So
But now they
Leg-
get older. The girls get older crafts. They get the little building kits,
Yep.
and it's fun.
And Messer just got a sewing machine for her birthday
Yep.
from Grammy and Poppy, which was
Yep.
really fun.
Very fun. She's
And I
been sewing
I wish-
all sorts of things.
I wish there was a way on this podcast that we could post that vest that
No,
she made for
I don't
Wilhelmina. I feel like Willa would really be blessed to know that picture.
Well,
made it out.
she got the sewing machine and was just so excited to sew anything. She wanted
I
to
know.
try sewing something. And so I just ran to the basement and I had a bin of old fabric and it was all wrinkly. She didn't take the time to iron it out or
No,
anything.
it's
She
Messer.
just I'm just practice some stitches on here. Go back and forth, try the different stitchings. And so she takes it upon herself to take that piece of fabric and turn it into a vest. But first, she
but-
cuts it into the shape of a vest, which is fantastic. And then went through, she hemmed almost the whole entire thing. Like, she went around the whole thing creating like a hem.
It's awesome.
Then created like a whole panel of tassels from that fabric.
Right.
Like, cut it into like all this, and then sewed that to attach it to the bottom of the vest.
Leaving the butt bare.
Leaving the butt
which was her
bare.
favorite part. This is so weird.
She sewed buttons,
So
added
it's a
buttons
little bit
onto
more
it.
like a hospital Johnny now with the bare open butt.
Did a matching hat. I mean, it was
A matching hat.
It was pretty
but
hysterical.
the fact that she went into it saying, I'm going to make a vest for Willow.
like, why a vest?
Like, why?
I don't
and
know.
Willow was like, no, I'm good.
Willow's like, I
No,
don't want
I'm
a
good.
vest.
I don't want a vest.
See my vest, see my vest, made from real gorilla.
But it was like the only one she would fit, the only person she would fit.
I know.
And so she had made that tiny vest, and nobody else could fit into it.
Oh, my gosh.
But it was awesome. It was definitely awesome.
Yeah, that made me so happy.
What is happening with the noise right now? I
Construction.
don't even.
Construction.
I don't know.
So, sorry,
It's like
Ben.
as soon as we hit record,
I'm
it's
just
like
I'm
unbelievable.
apologizing to Ben again for all the background
Every
noises.
time.
I just, at this point, I almost feel like our podcast would be kind of naked without it. It's like I want just like downtown noises, like horns beeping and sirens.
I think that would be
and
better.
People swearing at each other.
I think that would be
Horn.
better. I feel like any steady sound is better than like the like one-offs, and it's always a different sound.
Yeah. Well, got to keep everybody guessing. So, all right. So we know that it was not a super easy Christmas season for a lot of people. In
Yeah.
fact, that probably statistically, I think there ends up being a lot more loss of life around, like in the winter months.
Yeah, it's usually like November to February, I feel like. I mean,
Yeah.
we've been doing church a long time, and
Funeral
it feels like
services and stuff. Yeah.
it can be heavy. This year was extra heavy.
This year was
It
so much
rivaled another
extra.
year. A couple years ago, I remember us having a winter that was like
So many
terrible.
so many deaths.
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think there's another aspect of it where it's like as the church has gotten bigger too, like the community swells.
Yeah.
And so it's like now there's just
You
more
hear
people,
about so many
you're
things and-
connected,
yeah.
to so many more people. But I feel like it's really difficult to come into a new year, all the hope and anticipation and excitement of a new year, but to be under just like the oppression of loss and of, mourning. And so even as like right before we fired up this podcast, I was starting to write another a funeral message. And yeah, so I think it's probably good to check in on that stuff.
check in.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about it recently because I actually don't even know why. I was thinking about so much loss, like in contrast with it being a new year and New Year's resolutions, and how loss, especially of those like closest to us, makes us kind of like rethink all our priorities and like what's actually important to us and how we want to invest our time. And when we're not presented with that, we kind of go into like a new year and we see New Year's resolutions and we're thinking about all sorts of stuff to like improve different areas of our lives.
Sure.
We've all heard it said when somebody's on their deathbed, like they're not usually talking about how much like money they wish they had made or saying like they wish they had spent a few more hours like working or at the office or
Right.
It's like all of a sudden you're facing like the end of your life and it hits you of like where you invested, where you spent your time. And all of a sudden you're like your priorities are made like really clear. And I've been reading a book the last few weeks, and one of the assignments he asks you to do, or he would tell his students as a teacher, take the next 2 weeks, spend them as if you only had 2 weeks to live. If you knew you only had 2 weeks to live.
I'd never go back to that class.
He says that. He says, like, aside from, like, fulfilling your student responsibilities, because these are college students.
Yeah.
He said, you're going to fulfill your student responsibilities, but in the time outside of that, what would you be doing? Would you be, like, thanking your parents? Like, would you want to have time to thank your parents for, like, how they've invested in you? Or would you want to spend time with a spouse? Or would you want to plan, whatever it is, like how everybody will, pursue different things at that point. But
Sure.
saying, it's kind of to say, all right, now these are the things that are actually a priority for you. This is where your value is. Your value is obviously in your family, or your value is in getting a home fully renovated, or whatever it is. it kind of helps you like navigate what you put value in and what you've been maybe not spending time where you know you should because you're too busy with other things.
Sure.
And so I thought that was like a really good practice for us, especially as believers, to say, hey, it's okay like every once in a while to like maybe not be directly associated with somebody who's passed away, but to like take those moments and say, all right, how is this changing me? How is this affecting me? Am I really like prioritizing in my life right now with my relationships with my spouse, with my kids, with my family, with those that I really do know are near and dear? Or am I just kind of like going through trying to check a whole bunch of boxes, get through life and paycheck to paycheck, just feeling like the mundaneness of life?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, that's probably one of the best things you can do when you lose somebody is to like take inventory of all that. And it's hard because you're motivated by the knowing, the awareness of that. But to live in it is different. You know, I mean, funerals bring people together, sometimes for better or for worse. Even if like you're not the one dying and there's a lot of people you love who aren't dying, but the one person dies, and communally, traditionally, it brings families, friends, people who haven't seen each other in years back together.
Yeah.
The joke is, I'll see you at the next funeral, because that's the only reason we're going to fly in from the other side of the country, or that's the only reason we're going to whatever, is somebody's on their deathbed or somebody's whatever. And it's like, if living like that, if we prioritize our family like that, like, okay, we're not just going to see each other as least as possible.
Yeah.
You know? But I think that carrying that kind of burden is, there's also another part of this too where you don't live under the burden of death.
No, of course not.
Well, because, and I say that because I think that a lot of people, it's like, there's another side to this, which is like, well, what if so-and-so dies tomorrow? Like, what if, you know, how are you not going to spend it? And it's like, I don't think you can live like that either. I think we've got to live with the hope of, okay, we're going to spend eternity with these people. It's another reason why, you know, you should be a good witness. You should be a good testimony to your loved ones, to your family, so that, okay, we can share the gospel with these people. We can be certain and confident of their eternity with them. And now we spend all that time with them.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't want people to get lost in the idea that like, well, if I don't tell them enough that I love them here, I'll never get to, it's like.
I don't think there's a tell them enough necessarily, but I do think there's a tell them at some point thing.
Yes.
And I think we often take a lot of things for granted. And so it's kind of like, hey, if you knew so-and-so was going to pass or you were going to pass, like, do you wish that you had said such and such to somebody?
Right.
Like, was there something that had been left unsaid?
And that part is real. I think that part is real because even if that person immediately to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. And so now they are now living transcendent of time, right? For eternity in the presence of God. They're not stressed out about how many times you didn't say, I love you, or I'm sorry. But we who are still saddled with life on this earth, decades more life, we're the ones who are living under the, oh, shoot. And I think there's different ways to handle that. I remember I was at a funeral a number of years ago. It was about 6 years after this church got started and the whole debacle of everything that, you know, like fell apart for me and like, you know, with the denomination I was affiliated with and held credentials with and stuff. And I was at a funeral and saw the guy who was like really kind of singularly responsible for a lot of that, and somebody that I had really struggled with, like in the hardest season of my life, to forgive, whatever. And I saw him there, and it was so weird because his health was not great. And he went down to speak at the funeral, and I watched him go down, and the trouble that he was having with just like moving, I got this conviction wave come over me, like, Zach, like, you need to make things right with him. Like, there's a chance he won't live much longer. It just felt a little fiery, like it was from the Lord, because it certainly wasn't something I wanted to do. And so I took the time that day, and it wasn't something I was excited about. It was something that I had probably rehearsed in my head a bunch of times, and then it came out nothing like I wanted it to. But I think the Lord did something there.
Yep.
And it's like, even though he's still alive today, he hasn't passed on, I look back and I'm like, that was so important, because it wasn't about like you're in a funeral setting. Allow the fact that death is real, like lives ending it happens every day to people we love, people we know, people we have relationships with, people we might have aught with or offenses held. And the Lord wants us living free of that.
Yeah.
So I think we've got to take every one of these opportunities to go and restore those things.
Right. I think that's so good. And I also think it's good to, it kind of gives you a fresh perspective when you have like tiffs or irritabilities or things you're just like getting caught up in. You're getting caught up in drama. You're getting caught up in like what I'm not getting to do or just like all this stupid everyday garbage. It gives you a fresh perspective like, oh, wow, like so many things that I think really matter don't actually matter. Or they matter a lot less than I've allowed them, the space that they've taken up in my life, in my like mental space, emotionally, things that I've just allowed to really like sink in that it's not what the Lord wants for you. It's not like what's best for you.
Yeah.
And so I think kind of re-examining some of those spaces in our life, it's a good check-in.
Absolutely. No, I think that's awesome. And I think that was a really good thing to cover. It doesn't feel heavy, even though we have had all this loss here. I feel like it's the appropriate way to see it is like, okay, every one of these things is an opportunity to like be grateful, to go and reevaluate, and even down to coming into a new year and saying, okay, I have all these other New Year's resolutions. I'm going to eat healthier. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to budget my money wiser. I'm going to whatever. And it's like, well, there are things that matter more than all of that. And, check in on that stuff. So good.
It is good. Anything else from you before
I don't think so. No.
Before we run to the next thing?
Nope.
Are we going to be back here next week?
I'd like to be. Yeah. Let's try it. Let's shoot for it. Is that your New Year's resolution?
My new resolution.
No.
We got this.
Yeah, we'll be back in the game. So anyway, God bless you guys.
Our House friends and family, thank you for stopping by today, and we'll see you next Friday on Our House.
This is Messer. And I'm Willa. This is Our House from A to Z. Thanks for coming over.
Well, isn't that special?
How about some,
Am I in danger?